Hello and welcome to Mirror Realm. My name's Nick. I'm known as Wyvern on the Discord servers. Today we're going to be having a look at a Wolves deck that I created. There's a link to the deck list in the description. I've also put some timestamps in if you are not interested in watching the whole video and you just want to jump ahead to the parts that you're interested in. This deck was conceived about 5 months ago. I was just looking at the Grey Wolves card and I just thought, man, this card could be crazy. If you could get a lot of these into play fast, that could just be insane. Just the exponential nature of it. Just if you have 2 wolves in play, they're 2 power each, and that's a total of 4 power on the board, but next turn you could play 2 more, and then you would have like 16 power on the board, and then the turn after you could be up to 36, and then 64, and then 100, and then 144 power, and it just gets to totally crazy numbers really fast. And if you could do that fast, there are very few decks that could cope with that. And I just thought, yeah, well, that's obvious enough. Someone's probably already done it. So I looked on the Curiosa website and looked at all the Wolves decks on there, and no, there wasn't any Wolves decks that tried to do this out there. There were Wolves decks, but they were very different. They were philosophically very different. They were like half Wolves and half other cards to protect the Wolves and solve various problems, and I don't know, like Shield Maidens or Tragedy Worry Warts or I don't know, various other cards, but a lot of cards that just slowed the deck down a lot and effectively made it more versatile, a lot more versatile, but a lot slower. Whereas so that they could solve various problems when they happened potentially. Whereas the philosophy of this deck, I suppose, is that it just tries to win the game as fast as it can before your opponent has a chance to create any problems for you. So you solve the problems effectively by winning before the problems exist. And then I thought, okay, well, let's try and build this. So how can you play? And then, saw the Sorcerer basically, and I was like, well, okay, there's a clear path to being able to play 2 wolves every turn, because you can draw 1. If your whole spell book is wolves, and you draw a spell at the start of your turn, and you tap the Sorcerer to draw a spell, then you're guaranteed to draw 2 wolves. So that's easy enough to draw 2 a turn. You can guarantee that pretty much. And then the question became, how fast can you play 2 a turn? And about 5 months ago, I was just looking through all the sites, and just Imperial Road really caught my eye. It's since, then a lot of decks now, so it would have been really obvious, but this was 5 months ago. I hadn't seen it really in any decks, and I just thought this card is really good for this deck. And that combined with Tower, you effectively can just do turn 1 Village or whatever, any site that has an Earth threshold, just because the Grey Wolves have a single Earth, so it allows you to be really aggressive with the Atlas construction. And you can just go Village, turn 1, and then turn 2 you can go Imperial Road into Tower, and you have 4 mana on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you can play any other 4th site, and you will have 4 mana every turn thereafter. So you can get to 4 mana on turn 2, play 2 wolves, and you can play 2 wolves on turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. You can play 2 wolves every turn. So, and you can get that exponential nature happening as soon as turn 2. Now, it can get them on turn 2. This deck, most of the time, it starts getting, it gets 1 on turn 2, and then it gets 2 on turn 3, and every turn thereafter. Because in order to get 2 down on turn 2, you need a Imperial Road and a Tower, whereas in order to get 2 on turn 3, you just need an Imperial Road or a Tower. Now, you can also, if you're on the draw, you can get 2 on turn 2 if you have double Imperial Road. So you can go turn 1 Village, and then turn 2 Imperial Road into the site that you drew at the start of your turn. So there's another path that's unlikely, but you can also, you can get 2 on turn 2 without a Tower as well. So originally, so that was really it, and then I just thought, okay, like from there it was just it became clear it was possible. So it was just a lot of testing that needed to happen, and
just went about and I built it and played a few matches and thought, oh, that's pretty good. But it was very apparent that Chaos Twister was a problem for this deck, and that card was really popular in the meta, and the deck was kind of just parked, really, and put to the side. And then the Australia and New Zealand Nationals tournament was announced, and Chaos Twister was banned for that tournament. Jared and myself, we decided that we're going to try and do well in that tournament. So we did a lot of playtesting for it, hundreds of hours. We were playtesting for hours every day for a couple months leading into it. And this deck just was really good. Really, really good. If Chaos Twister wasn't in the meta and the Fire Earth Sorcerer was kind of all the rage, and this deck basically just beat it very close to 100% of the time, that was an incredibly good matchup for this deck. And in our testing, Root Spiders were super strong. We thought that they were the best minion in the game, and it was a problem for this deck. But so the entire sort of deck is like designed to try to make sure that Root Spiders aren't a problem between the Geysers, the Atlantean Fate, the Floodplains, and the other water sites in the deck, and so on, just to really try to make it so that Root Spiders aren't a problem for you. And we were, Jared and I, it was up until a couple of weeks before the tournament, it was looking like we're both going to play this deck. And then, lo and behold, in the last major tournament, I think it was in the US, before it was won by Enchantress. And unfortunately, we were fairly certain that meant that Enchantress was going to be popular, and that there would be at least one deck in the top 8 playing it, and that probably more. And it was going to be it's a real problem for this deck. It's a horrible matchup. This deck can beat Enchantress, but it's not a good matchup by any means. Just Silence is just a total hoser for this deck. So in the end, we decided to not play it, and I guess it was for the best, because Jared ended up playing Enchantress in the final and winning the tournament. If he would played this Wolves deck, everything would be different. Maybe he wouldn't have made the final, but if he had he would have, been playing against Enchantress, but potentially in that final. So I think it was a good call in the end. But it would have been fun for the memes if there was 2 Wolves decks that made top 8 in the Australia and New Zealand Nationals tournament. That would have been fun, but it wasn't to be. And ended up being played by my wife in that tournament. She hadn't really played Sorcery much at all, but she still went 4-2 in the constructor rounds with this deck, and there's a lot of people talking about it. Just scared a lot of people with this deck. So the Mulligans, this deck Mulligans super aggressively, especially on the sites. It's designed. The Atlas deck is basically designed to take advantage of the very lenient Mulligan rule. For the spellbook, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it matters a bit if you know what deck they're playing or not. So if you don't know what deck they're playing, then the Mulligan for the spellbook is pretty straightforward. It's just, if you draw anything that isn't a wolf, then you Mulligan it. And the exception to that is, if you draw both Rolling Boulders, you would keep one. And if you draw both Geysers, you would keep one. But other than that, you would Mulligan everything that isn't a wolf. Now, if you knew what they were playing, and you know for a fact that they're playing Root Spiders, then you would keep a Geyser even if you only drew one. And if you knew for a fact that you were playing something that Atlantean Fate was going to completely hose them, if you could just play it on turn 4 or 5, then you would keep that if you drew it as well, particularly if you drew a Floodplain as one of the sites, which you would keep as well. But let's assume you don't know what they're playing, and if you don't know what they're playing, then if it's not a wolf, you Mulligan it back. Exception is, if you draw both Rolling Boulders, you keep one, or both Geysers, you keep one. Now with the sites, however, it's a bit more to it than that. The general rule is you would keep an Aqueduct or a Color Out of Space. If you draw them, you keep it. One of them, prioritizing the Aqueduct over the Color Out of Space. And if you draw any towers, you keep one and Mulligan the others.
And if you draw any Imperial Roads, you keep them, both of them, if you draw them. So that's the general rule. And then you mulligan everything else. And there's some exceptions if the starting three hands are just the starting three sites have very good synergy with each other. So for example, if this is the starting can, now this is a very good way on the website to practice mulligans because you can do lots of them very fast. So we literally done thousands with this deck to sort of fine tune the Atlas composition in particular. So if this was your starting hand, you would mulligan the village, and the general rules that I just said apply. So if you have Aqueduct / Collider Space dual sites, let's just call them collectively, you keep one. If any Imperial Roads, you keep them no matter what, and you would keep one tower. So you keep these and you mulligan everything else. So you'd mulligan the village, and then you're going to draw one more site in the game in an ideal sort of circumstance. Now, potentially you draw a fifth site, rarely, and that's just to cast Atlantean Fate normally. So if you're on the play, you would draw this on the second turn. If you're on the draw, you would draw this at the beginning of your first turn. Always draw the fourth site as soon as you can, just so to help with your site placement, because that matters a lot. So from here, you're basically just going to go. If you're on the draw, you're just going to go turn 1 village, make the foot soldier, and then turn 2 floodplain or aqueduct, it depends, and then you're just going to go turn 3 Imperial Road into the other one. So on turn, you're going to go turn 1, you're going to get a foot soldier, turn 2 you'll get 1 wolf, and then turn 3 you'll get 2 wolves, and as of turn 4 you can start drawing 2 spells a turn and playing 2 wolves a turn every turn. With this hand, you mulligan all 3, and you're going to draw that 4 site. So from here, you're going to go village, create a foot soldier on turn 1, and then on turn 2, you're going to go Imperial Road into Aqueduct, and you're going to play 2 wolves on turn 2, and you're going to start drawing 2 spells every turn from turn 3, and playing 2 wolves every turn from turn 2 onwards. So this is like God draw, if you want to put it that way. Mulligan all 3 with this one, and you're going to draw 1. So with this is another sort of God draw. You just go turn 1 village, get a foot soldier, turn 2 Imperial Road into tower, 2 wolves, turn 3 village, 2 wolves, and then turn 4 drawing 2 spells, 2 wolves every turn. This one, you're going to mulligan the crossroads in the village, and you're going to draw a side at the beginning of the turn. So with this one, you're going to play turn 1 village, make the foot soldier, turn 2 aqueduct or village, depends if you want to show the water site. Typically it's going to be the aqueduct, and you get a wolf, turn 3 tower, 2 wolves, turn 4 village, 2 wolves, and then turn 5 drawing 2 spells a turn. Going to keep 1 tower, throw the other 2 back. You're going to draw it. So from here, so this is a bit of an interesting one. This happens a bit, to be honest, that you end up with the crossroads just post mulligan. So you're going to go turn 1 village, make the foot soldier, and then you're probably going to go turn 2 crossroads, just so you can see what the next 4 sites are to help you with the placement of these final 2. So I'm going to go 4. Now you're generally hoping for a floodplain, which there was 2, but you're generally hoping for 1. So you're going to put the floodplain on top. You're not going to draw it, you're just going to leave it there, and then you're going to go turn 3 the tower that you kept, and then you're going to play this aqueduct on turn 4, and there will be a floodplain left on top of your deck. So on turn 3 you'd play the tower, have 4 mana, 2 wolves, turn 4 the aqueduct, 2 more wolves. You leave a floodplain on top, and the reason why that's there is because if you draw the Atlantean Fate, you'll know that the floodplain's on top, and then the Atlantean Fate can be in your hand. At the start of your turn, you draw the floodplain, put it down. Even if you didn't have an aqueduct, you had no water threshold, you would still be able to flood one of your sites to get the second water threshold, and then you would be able to cast Atlantean Fate. So you just draw the floodplain, play it, flood the site, cast Atlantean Fate. So, yeah. And then the other thing is you might want to flood something like a root spider to kill it or something. So it's just good to have a floodplain sitting on top of the deck just in case you need it. So yeah, so I think that's with the mulligans. You just have to practice them a lot, and this is a good way to do it. Just you can do hundreds of them, and just quickly just imagine how you would play them out, and sort of just get used to types of hands that you might keep. Now, there is a hand just to reference that sort of breaches these rules a little bit that you would generally just keep, and that hand is basically Village Floodplain Tower. Now, technically, according to the base mulligan rules, you would throw back the floodplain and the village and draw 2, but Village Floodplain Tower in particular is generally just worth keeping because it enables you to cast all of the spells in your deck, and it gives you some protection against root spiders and also earthquakes and Atlantean Fate, because you'll have 2 ordinary sites to protect against Atlantean Fate. You'll have the water site to protect against earthquake and stuff. You'll be able to flood stuff, and you can cast all the spells in your deck. So that specific combination, Village Floodplain Tower, you would generally keep it just because it's even though it's not the fastest it can be, it's a safe one to keep. And if you keep the tower and you mulligan the other 2, you could certainly end up with a worse outcome, let's say, than that. Now we're just going to go through just the opening plays, just in an idealistic world, assuming that you're not really playing against an opponent that's going to do anything, and then just going through each of the avatars that are in the meta, and just sort of talk about the little differences in the approach of how you take the opening moves in the game. We're just going to assume that you're on the play. I think for here, if you're on the draw, in either case, nearly always, you're going to draw a site on the first draw that you get, whether that's turn 2 if you're on the play or turn 1 if you're on the draw. You're always going to place your first site here, and they're going to place their first one here. Now, if they're on the play and they move here, if you don't always want to play in 13, and if you don't, then if we play somewhere else, then they can play on 13, and that's okay. Generally, you're just happy if they overextend into you like this, just because it's really easy for you to mount an attack onto the 13 site and do a lot of damage. So just to be aware that when you're on the draw, this is okay if this happens, and most of the time you actually want it to happen. So, but when you're on the play, that doesn't sort of typically happen as a thing, because even if you play sideways, you can then play 13 next turn potentially. So yeah, just to be aware of when you're on the draw, that's okay if they do that. So let's just ignore the avatar that they're playing, and let's just assume that they have a deck that isn't going to do anything against you for the first few turns. So on turn 1, we're just going to do all of these with the same opening hand, which is basically just Tower, Floodplain, Village. It's the hand that we said that we would keep if we drew it. It's like a mid-range hand that you're okay with. It's not the best hand. We'll put an Imperial Road into this opening hand after, and that's more like treat like an optimal starting hand, what that would look like instead. And we're just going to assume that the first draw that we get is an Aqueduct. That doesn't really help anything much to the play, so it doesn't confuse anything too much. So turn 1, we'll just play a Village and a Foot Soldier, and then they play their side here. And then turn 2, we would draw the site, which would be the Aqueduct. And then this is just worth being aware of. And then we would play the Floodplain here typically, and play a Wolf and move this Foot Soldier up. And let's say they play their side here. This is an ideal world. We're just doing the ideal world scenario at the moment. So that would happen. And then on our turn 3, we draw a spell, and then we're going to tap, and we're going to play the Tower, and then we're going to play 2 Wolves here, and we attack, and we would hit them for 4, and they play a site here or here. Either way, doesn't really matter. And then on our next turn, I'm going to draw a spell, and we're going to tap and play another site, back up to 4 mana, and then we're going to play 2 wolves, and then we're going to attack. This one would probably attack the side up here, just to be in a different square to assign to everything else. And we're going to attack with 3 wolves here and the foot soldier, and there's 5 wolves, so that's 16 damage, and they'll be on death's door. So this is sort of like it's not with the best possible start, but it's like a reasonable start that this deck can get to. So you can put them on death's door on your turn 4 after they've had 3 turns if you're on the play, if they don't do anything to disrupt you. So that's your sort of like ideal start with that site composition. So let's just wind back and now let's just say we get a different draw. Let's say we get this is pretty close to the best you can hope for as a start, really, so that the floodplain is the 4th site, and then this is your opening hand. So in this example, on our turn 1, we're going to play the village and create the foot soldier, and they play a site here. And then on turn 2, we draw a floodplain, and then we're going to play Imperial Road. And they play their site off the Imperial Road, and then we play our site, and then we put 2 foot soldiers. And we could move this up if we wanted, or we could leave it back to block if they attack a wolf with something, but let's just move it up. We're just talking best case scenario here. And then on their turn 2, they play a site, and then on our turn 3, we're going to draw a spell, and we're going to play a site. This is our turn 3, and then we're going to play 2 wolves, and we're going to hit them for 4, 8, 9. So they would be on 11. And then we're just going to tap and draw 2 wolves, and then we're going to play 2 more wolves, and then we have 6 wolves, so that's going to hit for 6, 12, 6, 12, 18, 24, 25 damage on turn 4. So they would be on negative 14 or whatever it would be. So at that point, even if they had something to disrupt you, as long as they didn't kill multiple wolves in their first couple turns, they would be on death's door already, unless they had some serious disruption like a root spider or something. So this is sort of like your best, the best possible start. So they're the sort of 2 starts that, with the two hands. And now we're just going to talk about the differences. We won't do the Imperial Road one. We'll just go through the different matchups, assuming that we don't have that really good start. We just have these 3, and that our first draw is going to be this aqueduct, and we'll just talk about effectively where you diverge from that optimal sort of plays at the start. So I think we can bundle up Sorcerer, Seer, these 3, and one more, I think the Death Speaker. We can bundle those up together to some degree. There's a little bit of difference here, but the main thing is if you suspect that they're playing Vile Imps, Firebolts, Deserts, these type of things, that they could get an easy early pick off on a wolf. If you suspect they're playing any cards, which those cards typically reside in the decks with these as the avatar. So if that's the case, what you want to do is turn 1 you would do this still, and they would go here, and then turn 2 you're going to draw a side at the start of your turn, and turn 2 you would typically build sideways here, and you put the wolf here, and you could move the foot soldier or leave it. That's optional, it doesn't matter too much. So let's say we just leave the foot soldier there and we put the turn 2 wolf there. And the reason for that is if we put the site here and the wolf here, for example, they could just play a desert here and kill the wolf. So we definitely don't want to do that. But even if we put it back here, they could put a site here and then they can firebolts and kill your wolf and your foot soldier. So you want to put it here so they just can't kill it. They could. The reason why you might move the foot soldier, by the way, is lightning bolt, for example. So you probably do just move the foot soldier if you think they might be playing lightning bolt. But if they're just playing fire stuff, they probably can't kill it anyways. So that's how you do this play. Let's say their turn 2 they build to here. On your turn 3, at the start of your turn, you're going to draw a spell, and you're going to play the tower. Now, depending on what they've got, it could be here or here. Depends on what they're showing. If they're showing fire, you probably play it. It doesn't matter too much here or here. It's just depending on what you see. If you think they might have a root spider, you want to leave this spot for the floodplains. That's the main thing. So you probably put the tower here, and then you can play 2 wolves. Depending on what you're seeing, you might want to be conservative, or you might be happy to have one there. You might be happy to play one there and there. But in the most conservative sort of approach, you would put them both here, and this foot soldier would now be untapped. Normally, you wouldn't be so conservative. You would do something like this. And then on their turn, if they play their site here, you can then converge. You can put 2 more wolves down on your next turn, and you can attack for 10. So they probably won't do that. They might do that. So the other option you could have is to put the 2 wolves here. So you've got some options. It really depends on what you're facing. You just have to make a judgment call. If you have the 2 wolves here, if they put a site here, you can attack it. But either way, they can avoid the attack because they can just play here. So it doesn't matter too much. So the main thing is, if they want to overextend into you, you'll be able to kill them easily, unless this happens to be a Gnome Hollows or something. So let's just say they do something like this on their turn, and then on your following turn, you will draw a spell. You'll play the floodplains in the central spot where you want it, and you can put 2 more wolves. So I personally would probably just move these up, something like this. Now at this point, you're thinking, you're doing some counting. So you got 2 wolves in hand. Let's just wind back, and they were like this. So you want to say, for example, if they've got one blocker here on their turn, you want to be able to do 20 damage in one turn and get them to death's door. So you got 3 wolves down. Can you do it? So if you've got here and here, and then it's on a floodplain, and then you can put 2 more wolves here and move this one up to here, and you move this foot soldier to here, something like this. And then on their turn, who knows where they play this site, doesn't really matter too much, and you would just draw a spell, tap and draw a spell, and then you can put down 2 wolves here, and then you can attack for 7, 14, 21, 28 damage. So even if they block one, you would still hit them for 21 damage. So that's what your opening moves will look something like that. Obviously, there's 4 avatars here with so many different decks that could that they could be playing. So obviously, there's quite a bit of variance in what might happen there. But just to sort of give you a bit of an idea, the main takeaway here is that if you think they're playing fire, then what you want is your first placement to just be sideways here, and to put the first wolf here. That's the main thing, so that it doesn't get picked off easily. So next we'll just talk about Geomancer. This is generally a pretty easy matchup for this deck. The main thing they've got that can be a bit painful is root spiders. So on turn 1, you're just going to do the foot soldier play here. Now the main thing with Geomancer as well is that they will be playing their first site here, and they'll put their rubble token that they get from it here. So they're going to do that, and then they're going to place a site here and get rubble here and here. So that basically their first 4 sites, or if not their first 4, but by the time they get to 5 sites, they're going to have this configuration, and that it's going to happen. That's important, and they probably have root spiders, which is a problem. So you want to have your configuration. You want 18 and 12, 13, 14 for your site, so that you've got 3 potential places you can attack in case they have a Gnome Hollows or Root Spider or something. They probably can't have a Gnome Hollows or Root Spider on all 3 of them, so you'll be able to attack one. That's the most important thing. So just to bear that in mind. So what's going to happen is then on your turn 2, you're going to draw this Aqueduct at the start of your turn, and now you can't play it on 17 or 19. The good thing about the Geomancer is it doesn't have any way to easily pick off anything that you've got, because it's typically mono earth. So you play, and you probably want the floodplain to be central here, so it can flood this site with their Root Spider. They can't get a Root Spider here, and you can flood. It's in a good spot to flood a lot of stuff, basically. So you want that central, and then you can just play your wolf there, and you can move up. They also, can't bury or cave in or earthquake. They're going to really struggle to kill the wolf if it's on a water site. So you just want that wolf here, and then they're going to have to play here, or they're going to lose this site to you taking over their rubble, which they definitely won't want. So they're going to definitely play their second site here on their turn. Now they might play a Land Surveyor or something like that, so they might have a chump blocker, but they're not going to have anything significant to stop you at this point. And then on your next turn, you're just going to draw a spell at the start of your turn. You're going to play the tower on either 12 or 14. You're going to put 2 wolves down here, and then you're just going to attack for 3. And now we're in that motion where they're on 16, and then on your next turn you just draw, and then you're going to tap and play the Aqueduct, and you're going to put 2 more wolves down, and then you're going to hit them for 16 damage and Death Store them. And they would have a site here in this example. So Geomancer is typically pretty easy for that, because on turn 3 they could have a Root Spider, but you could just flood it in this example. They could sit it under their avatar and make it sort of difficult for you to... You can get them to Death Store easily, but maybe you need to draw one of the other cards from the deck to be able to win the game, but to kill them on your own Death Store. But that's typically the approach here for the when you play Geomancer. So that's Geomancer done. Now let's talk about Avatar of Earth quickly. So the main difference here is that you typically want to backline the Earth sites. So you go first, you want the village on the backline, and you get the Foot Soldier. And then turn 2, you're going to draw the Aqueduct, and you could put the floodplain here because again it's a good spot to sort of be able to flood sites against the Root Spider, so that's fine. And you can be pretty aggressive here if you want, unless they're playing there's a Fire Earth variant. If they have that, then instead you probably want this start and put the wolf here. But if they have the more typical Mono Earth or Air Earth variant, then instead you would probably play the floodplain and put the wolf here and move this up. And then the next turn, you're just going to play the tower here, and you're sort of back into this, if they don't have a play in their first couple turns, you could get them to Death Door really quick. And then finally, the fourth site, you probably just play it here in a box, because you want the Earth site back here. You don't want the Avatar of Earth to sort of get extra power when it's defending its own sites, to be able to more easily pick a wolf off potentially. So yeah, the main thing here, Earth sites on the back line. Avatar of Air, very similar conceptually. It's just that rather than wanting to put the Earth sites on the back line, you want to put the air sites on the back line. So in this example, you play you still do this start. You're going to draw the Aqueduct, and you're still going to go here, and it's the same sort of play depending on what they have. This is a tricky matchup generally, especially for this deck list. You want them to beat because of all the maneuverability and the tricks they have. You're going to stand a better chance against Avatar of Air if you have sort of 5 different tricks in the deck, like if maybe you have a flanking maneuver, Magellan Globe, stuff like that added to the deck, and not have duplicates, just so they can they can't play. That you can get them more easily when they do their tricks, basically. So, but anyways, the main thing here is that the turn 3 play is going to be the tower, and you just want that on the back row here, so they can't do their antics as easily with it. And then the 2 wolves, and you're back, putting them to 16, and then the next turn, you're playing the 2 more wolves. I forgot to draw a card, and you're playing this here and putting them on death's door if they didn't make a play. So very similar to Avatar of Earth, but you just have these placements the other way around. Okay, let's talk about Pathfinder. So this is one that they might be a bit confused how to play. What they should be doing is not going to here first. That's a bad move for them generally. If they could well do that, especially if they're on the play, because if they don't know that you've got the wolves. So, but in any case, here, so if they go here, it ends up very easy for you. First turn here, sorry. So on your second turn, if you're on the play, they're going to know that you got the wolves because you will play it. So they might. There's all different variants of this. If they have the fire one, if they have the fire variant. You will draw this at the start of the second turn, and you probably just play the aqueduct here and then the wolf here. If they're playing the fire variant, because if you play it here, they can move here, and then firebolts you, which you don't want. So if they go here on their turn 2, which is what they typically will do, but it's what they should be doing is going here. Then on your turn 2, you just draw a spell at the start, and you're going to play the tower here, just to link it up. And from here, depending on if they're not showing fire, then you definitely just want to be like aggressive and just sort of move like this. If they are showing fire, they're going to go this way, basically. So just need to bear that in mind. Do you just play them back a bit and be more conservative? But if they're not, you definitely just play them up here. And then on their turn 3, they're probably going to go this way. And then you are just drawing a spell, and you're going to play a floodplain. You're going to play it here. So you typically end up with a sort of like a Z or something with your sights when you play Pathfinder, just because they're going to typically go whichever side you backline this on, they're going to go the opposite way typically. But from here, you can move this up, and then you can attack them for 10, and then next turn they're on their store if they couldn't do anything much. So but with Pathfinder, they whatever their build is, they have a lot of answers to board wipe you once they get to higher amounts of mana. So you just need to bear that in mind, and it's worth just being a little bit more risky and just trying to make sure that you get them to death's door really quickly. So generally speaking, when I was saying you put the first wolf here if they're showing fire, but then you would put the 2 here on that turn, and you probably just move that there, just because you do want to make sure that you get them to death's door as soon as possible before they can get to higher mana thresholds. Okay, so that's Pathfinder done. Battle Mage. This one's another one that's a little bit different. So turn 1, again, you're just going to do the foot soldier. They're going to go here on their turn. Turn 2. Now with Battle Mage, the main thing is you just absolutely want them not getting on top of you early. If they do get on top of your wolves before you can cast more than a couple of them, they can probably just continuously kill them every single turn. So the most important thing in this matchup is just to delay connecting the sites as long as you can, and get as many wolves as you can before they link it all up. That's the most important thing. So you just play a wolf here, turn 2, and you move the foot soldier here to avoid them potentially grapple shotting to your avatar and then tapping and killing it and drawing a card or something. So you just want to, just move it here, have your wolf here. On their turn 2, they're just going to try and get to you as soon as possible. On this turn, you're going to draw a spell. You just play a tower in the corner here. Put 2 wolves in the corner. leave this untapped. You probably just leave them in this configuration. And then on their turn, they're going to go here, probably, because they're going to realize what's happening, and they know they got to get in there and start doing something as soon as they possibly can. And at this point, if they didn't manage to get here on their turn 3 and start killing stuff, they probably lost the game. Because now, basically, you will just untap, you will draw a spell, you're going to play a site, you just play a floodplain here, and then from here, you're just going to go wolf, wolf, here or here. Doesn't really matter too much. You probably leave the foot soldier untapped to be able to block if anything gets attacked, and you're just going to do that. And then the next turn, you're just going to draw a spell, wolf, wolf, 7, 14, 21 damage, and it's basically over for the battle mage. So the most important thing is they just don't get on top of you. The main way that they'll get on top of you, by the way, if you do this approach, is with teleport, because they'll be able to just teleport down here. So just bear that in mind. So they can potentially just teleport on turn 2 and get the pick off when you've got one wolf, especially if they're on the play. So being on the play matters quite a bit, but their main thing is teleport, so just be aware of that. And not all battle mage decks even play teleport, and they would have to get double air threshold in their first 2 turns, so it's not the easiest thing for them to be able to do. It's generally a good matchup, battle mage. It's one that if they know that how aggressive they need to be, then it's a bit better for them, but yeah, it's generally a good matchup. Let's just Wave Shaper. It's really just again, should have covered that with the avatar of Earth and Air. So it's just conceptually very similar. Turn 1, you just you do the Foot Soldier. Assume we didn't know that we're going to draw the Aqueduct. So at this point, we want to backline the water sites is the main thing. So we'd know that the floodplain would be on the back. But then on turn, we would now draw the Aqueduct. So probably what ends up happening is now we'd play the tower here. Play the 2 wolves, play 1 wolf the previous turn, 2 wolves this turn, and then probably you're just going to end up backlining the Aqueduct down here and having a single path to attack through. And if you didn't draw the Aqueduct, and that was not a water site, then instead you would end up doing it like this as a square if this wasn't water. And then the other thing is, if you were on the draw and we had these 3 sites in hand and then we drew on our first turn the Aqueduct, what we would instead do is start with the Aqueduct and not get the Foot Soldier, and then we would play a village and get or just a floodplain here, get the wolf here, and then play the tower and get the 2 wolves sort of thing, and then the village, or potentially the tower here, depending on what they did. So if you knew you had the 2 water sites, you would just do it in this configuration, because you're better to have the double front against them. So if you can, but you definitely want the water sites on the back to not be part of their body of water. And the last one is Enchantress, and this is a bad matchup for this deck in particular. Just Silence is really bad, and a bunch of other stuff can be bad. They have Chaos Twisters typically, which is bad. They have Wildfire, which is bad. Just a lot of stuff is really bad for this deck. Atlantean Fate can be pretty bad. So yeah, it's a bad matchup. But anyways, so turn 1, you would just do the Foot Soldier. Then you draw this. The main thing in the end is you're going to go, you probably just want the floodplain central, and then you're going to go here and here, probably. And the reason you just want to leave 12 and 14 blank, so that they can't attack you with their animated enchantments onto your sites, unless they place sites into 14 and 12 themselves. If they don't place them there, they can't attack you basically with any animated enchantments. So you want this specific site configuration against them. And then the idea would basically be that you hope they don't draw any of the cards that hose you, and you get them to death's door really fast, they probably playing Blink and stuff, and they can probably kill your wolves easily that get onto their territory. So the idea would be that you just get them to death's door, but it might be a struggle for you to kill them once they're on death's door, and you're going to need to draw one of the cards that's going to help you do it. And this site configuration could buy you many turns potentially before they could put you on death's door. Many extra turns at you drawing 2 spells a turn to help you find the card that you need to win. So that's what I think that's just an overview of the different matchups that you can face, and I hope this helps you get good starts with this deck. Thanks to Golden Eagle for providing me with the video footage for this match against PK Potato Knight. PK Potato Knight is piloting the Wolves deck. He saw me playing it and asked if he liked the look of it. He thought it looked fun and wanted to play it, and I showed him the deck. I'm pretty sure what he's playing is the exact deck list. If not, it's very similar. Interestingly, our Golden Eagle seems to be playing the Geomancer deck that Jared won the Australia New Zealand National Championship with, and I helped Jared make that deck. I don't know if they realise it, but both of them are playing decks that Jared and myself built. So BK Potato Knight wins the roll, and he's on the play. I'm going to be pretty blunt here, so yeah, please don't take anything too hard here. BK Potato Knight, it's not intended as any kind of criticism. I'm just trying to quickly point out all the little mistakes. So you can see that he's considering mulliganing. I believe his sites are a crossroads, a floodplain, and a village, and he should absolutely mulligan all 3 of them because you really want Imperial Road. It helps so much if you get an Imperial Road. But he keeps it. This first play, you really want it to be a village and a foot soldier, but instead it's a crossroads, which that's just not ideal at all. And you know that the Geomancer is going to play sites on 12, 13, and 14, and you know they're going to have root spiders pretty much. So you really want the Wolves really want the next 3 sites on 7, 8, and 9 to create a triple site front, so that you can get around the root spider or root spiders more easily. And you really want on 8 to be a floodplain if you have one. Now you can see he's going to go to put the floodplain there, but then realizes that he can't cast a wolf if he does that. But he would be able to if there was a village on 3. So ideally that'd be a floodplain on 8. You play a wolf, and ideally that wolf would also have been played on 8, and the foot soldier that was on 3 should have been moved up to 8. So ideally there would be a floodplain on 8, and a foot soldier and a wolf there right now. And then next turn, ideally you will play a tower on 7 or 9. I think instead he's going to play it on 2, which isn't not good. Should be on 7 or 9. Should be a tower, and then 2 wolves should come down on 8, and then the wolf that should have moved from should have already been on 8 instead of 3 should have attacked onto 13 for 3 damage, and the foot soldier that should have moved up to 8 last turn should have attacked on 13 this turn and done 1. So it should have been 4 damage and been on 16 life. And then if the Geomancer doesn't make a play, which it's a root spider, which he couldn't cast that, it wouldn't be able to play that there if there was a floodplain on 8. So, and if he didn't have a play, then this turn you could just drop 2 wolves, and then the 3 that's there could hit for 15, and the foot soldier could hit for 1 more, be 16. He'd be on death's door already. But instead he has the geyser. He actually forgets to draw a card off the geyser as well, which is another small mistake, which is going to matter. And he attacks there for 12. So now that 4th site comes down for the Geomancer in the exact sort of predicted formation, and he plays a unicorn and the divine healing. Now the sorcerer should just play 2 wolves, and then those 3 wolves that are there should attack on 18. Instead, he attacks first before casting a grey wolf, which is obviously a pretty bad mistake because he didn't need to die. And he puts 2 down, and that one moves forward. But those 2 on 13 and the one they killed with the unicorn, that should have, so those 3 should have all been different. The one that shouldn't have died, and basically there shouldn't be a dead wolf, and there should be 3 wolves that are on 13. One of them should be alive instead of dead, and 3 of them that are alive there should all be on 18 instead. Now the Gorgons comes down, and because all your wolves are clumped up and there isn't any on 18, it's now going to make things really awkward. He moves forward, definitely shouldn't do that either. Should just be drawing cards at this point. It's pretty. The Gorgons are just going to prevent you from winning unless you draw one of the outs. So it's just really important to draw as many cards as fast as possible. So he's missed his draw there from moving, and he also missed a draw from the geyser. Now the Gorgons can actually move up and attack, and they wouldn't be able to do that if those 3 wolves on 13 were instead on 18. He would potentially be able to, cave them in instead. So he's caving those wolves in, but in any case, those wolves should have been on 13. They probably would have been caved in if they were there, but yeah. He moves the sorcerer forwards again. That's a mistake again. He should just be trying to draw those extra cards. So he's got a clock on him now. That's basically because the sorcerer's there, he can be attacked by minions. It's going to get him to death's door faster. If the sorcerer was at the back row, the Gorgons would be sort of making it would be. I think the clock would be 5 turns basically because of the Gorgons. The Wolves player has 5 turns pretty much from the moment that the Gorgons hit the board before he would be on death's door. So he'd have 10 draws if he didn't move forwards, and also the one missed from the geyser. I think from the moment that the Gorgons hit the board, there were 7 cards drawn from the spell deck. There were 33 left. You should be able to draw 11 of those, and there's three outs, 2 rolling boulders and Atlantean Fate, and if you have 11 draws out of 33 cards, there's like over a 75% chance that you will get one of the 3 that you need. If he had drawn the Atlantean Fate, he can use the floodplain on 7 to flood the village on 8, and then it would submerge and drown the Gorgons, so they'd be dead. Or you just get a rolling boulder and then just tap and roll it into the Geomancer for the win. So I had a high percentage chance of just getting to one of those outs in time if it just stayed back on 3 and was just drawing 2 cards a turn. So yeah, so he's moved forward twice, missed 2 draws, and missed 1 off of the geyser. So that's 3 missed draws in total. Now at this point, he's on death's door, and he's ticking down. He's got the opponent on death's door. He's got 1 more turn till he's going to be on death's door with everything coming in. So next turn he'll be on death's door, and a Midland Army will come down. So he'll definitely be dead the turn after. He doesn't draw what he needs. He gets 2 wolves. So that's enough to go to death's door. Down comes the Midland Army, so he's definitely going to be dead next turn. So he's got a top decker win on this card. Basically, he needs to top deck a Rolling Boulder and push it. And instead he gets a wolf. But he should have had 3 more cards, and if he had of, he would have just top decked the Rolling Boulder for the win. If he never moved forwards from 3 and drew the card from the geyser. So yeah. So it's a generally a pretty good matchup, but just this build has the Gorgons, which can be a problem. So one thing I would say, I'm just going to pause it at this point. One thing I would say is just that if the opponent knows the deck list, then obviously the Geomancer could have just moved from 18 to 19, and then he wouldn't have been able to get hit with the Rolling Boulder. So if you're playing against people who you're playing against the same people and they know what's coming, you can't just play 2 Rolling Boulders and 2 Geysers and an Atlantean Fate. You got to play 5 different cards that do 5 different things, and then maybe the deck composition needs to change a bit. For example, if you had like a Rolling Boulder, Atlantean Fate, Flanking Maneuver, Magellan Globe, and a Geyser, then it would be very difficult for your opponent to play around all 5 of those cards, even if they knew they were in the deck, just because of the nature of what they do, and it's very difficult to play around all of them. So I would suggest something like that. There's other options, but swapping the cards around is probably going to require tinkering around with the Atlas deck. At the moment, it's optimized for the double Rolling Boulder, double Geyser, Atlantean Fate setup. You could just swap in the Magellan Globe easily enough for any of those cards, but if you want to fit in the Flanking Maneuver, you're going to have to make some changes to make sure the consistency is there to always be able to play it. Probably I would start with looking to drop one of the Crossroads, maybe 2 for extra towers, maybe as a start point if you want to fit in the Flanking Maneuver. But there's certainly other options in addition to these cards that are viable. Earthquake is viable, and you could also go a common sense package route with there's options there. Lightning Bolt, Grapple Shot, Ice Lance. On the whole, we just felt on the whole we ended up with the list with the double Geyser, double Rolling Boulder. Atlantean Fate was mostly just because the Rolling Boulder is a really good finisher when they're on death's door. Just because if you have wolves on the board as well, you typically got every single line, every space on the board covered that you can push it straight to. So it's a very good finisher. So that's why there's 2 of those. And then the other cards, the double Geyser, Atlantean Fate, is really just that we had an abnormally high level of fear of root spiders that may not be warranted in your local meta. So I think if it wasn't for that, absolutely the Magellan Globe would have been in the deck. So yeah, but there's other options, and you can tinker with stuff. I think the most important thing really is just that that you have some degree of unpredictability. So yeah, if you're playing against someone and they have no idea what the deck is or what's possibly coming, that's fine. You can just run doubles of things and get the consistency there in your own lines of play. So you are playing the game knowing that you're only really going to draw a Boulder or a Geyser, and you sort of maneuver the board state expecting to draw one of those at some point. So it can be easier to play from a consistency standpoint for yourself, but the problem is if your opponent knows that information, they can also approach the play in such a way that those cards have the limited impact for you. So if you've managed to make it this far, that's around an hour I think, so I appreciate you, and hopefully you've enjoyed it and got some useful information from this video. I've actually just recently had a very, very long, multiple hour conversation with Jared about the Geomancer deck that he played and won the Australian New Zealand National Championships with. So it was just a long conversation about the deck and about his experience playing that deck in that tournament. I'm going to make a video about that deck with that conversation as the sort of the base of all the information in it. So if that's something you might be interested in, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and you'll get a notification hopefully when that one comes out. Also, if you follow, I think it is, on the Curiosa website. If you follow Wyvern from the Decklist link in the description of this video, then you should be able to grab that Geomancer deck list, and I think I'll be releasing some more deck lists with either primers or videos about other decks that Jared and myself worked on. So yeah, it's just a timing thing really. Hopefully I just need to find the time to do it. So yeah, if this is the type of thing you might be interested in, hopefully I'll catch you for the next video. Until then, keep safe, keep well, and keep enjoying your sorcery. Cheers.